Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Getting to Know Some of Our Miami Coaches. I'm Steve Baker, the voice of the RedHawks, and happy to have so many with us here on our webinar today. Brought to you, by the way, by the folks at Kroger. I want to thank them for their long-standing partnership with the Miami Athletic Department. Kroger, fresh for everyone. And time to bring in our special guest today. Second-year head coach of Miami hockey, Chris Bergeron, joins us, and the brand new head coach of Miami softball, Kirin Kumar, joins us. And coaches, thanks for taking some time to join us here this afternoon. And glad to see, number one, that you're both well, and everybody is at least healthy at this point of the year. Kirin, I'll first start with you just to say welcome. And tell us a little bit about the process. Well, tell the folks about yourself, but also the process of getting to Miami.
Well, Kirin Kumar here. They call me 2K, and the process here was a little bit different than normal. Zoom, a lot of Zoom meetings, interviews. I met the girls first on Zoom, and we went from there. So this week I got to meet them in person, one-on-one, and so it was interesting, to say the least, but being here now, I know I made the right decision.
Yeah, very good. I'll ask you about that process in a moment. I do want to tell the folks that are watching, if you have a question for one of our coaches, all you have to do is click the raise hand and then submit your question in form of a text and the ask a question button below, and then we'll get the question and we'll get to it a little bit later on here. And Chris Bergeron entering his second year as head coach of Miami hockey. I want to take you back a long time ago when you were thinking about being a player here, Chris. You came to Miami. What brought you to Miami even back then?
Probably everything. Bill Davidge and Mike Norton were at a game of mine in Chatham, Ontario, on a Sunday night, and they invited myself and my parents to Oxford and to come check out a game. And so we drove, and you get off I-70 and you're pretty pumped to get here, and then we're driving through Eaton and Camden, and I told my parents we're lost. Like, we got to stop and turn around. Like, we're lost because there's no way it can take this long to get to where we're supposed to be going once we got off the highway. But as we all know, you pull into Oxford, and then that's when everything kind of hit me. They were playing the number one team in the country that weekend in Michigan State. The old rink was packed. All the players were extremely nice and welcoming to me. And quite honestly, they wanted me here. So that's always a nice thing. It didn't seem like I couldn't get much other interest garnered up. But no, I mean, the visit was great. And when I thought about that question, it was everything. It was everything. It was the people. It was the campus. It was the hockey. The education was one I did, just coming from where I came from in Canada. I didn't understand or appreciate how good the education was and is. But it was one thing that I fell in love with the place right away, and I was just hoping they would have room for me.
Very good. Question from Jen in the audience for Coach Kumar. You talked about the process a little bit, and I'll rephrase the question. You were on Zoom for the most part. You hadn't even met the team members. Jen wants to know, what was the deciding factor for you to choose to lead Miami's softball program? And has there been the most pleasant surprise maybe since you've been here in Oxford and at Miami?
Absolutely. So my deciding factor was two things. One was the high academics and the great softball. So when you combine those two, it's kind of what I look for in coaching. And then when I got here, everyone told me how pretty it was and what the people were like, and they don't do it justice. So when I got here, it was like, whoa. I called my friends immediately as walking around the softball program. I'm FaceTiming them, and I'm saying, this is nothing I imagined. It's way better. Same with walking in my office. So everything was extremely different, but better than what was expected. So I'm extremely happy.
Obviously everything is so different in this COVID reality that we all have right now. And Coach, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned in the interview process that, you Zoom call this, Zoom call that. How it's interesting to me, you're looking at people that you're potentially wanting to work for, and you lose that contact, you lose that kind of, okay, I really know this person because I'm sitting across from them. How is that in a job search to say, okay, you can't get that interaction, you can't get that feeling?
So the biggest thing is talking to people that know you, but also know them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I relied a lot on that. I relied a lot on my conversations, because it wasn't just one time. It was talking on the phone. It was Zooms. It was texting. So it's almost like getting to know a recruit before you can meet them on campus. And that's kind of how I approached it. And so, but relying on a lot of people that I knew the school, knew the people, and who had relationships with both. So that's been very helpful.
Very, very good. Chris, I got to ask you, in your second year, what part about the Miami job, if there was anything that really surprised you when you came back, and what's kind of been the same since you returned, as from an assistant coaching job here years ago?
Bake, I'm going to start with the same. The expectations and the potential of what Miami hockey can be, in my opinion, should be, is 100% the same. My second last year, we were a minute away from winning a national title. The expectations were we're going to win a national title. We went to the Frozen Four the next year. That hasn't changed. What I'm surprised about, Bake, unfortunately, isn't positive. I look at our fans from last year. I look at our relevancy on our campus. I look at our relevancy in the college hockey world, and that's unfortunately surprising to me. I wish it wasn't that, and it's our job to get us back relevant again, both on this campus and in this community, and in the college hockey world. And that's just the reality. I don't mean to be negative, but I think it's extremely positive. What I believe hasn't changed, unfortunately, from 2010 to today, things have changed a little bit in terms of, the vibe in the building at our home games. You've been to some home games. You remember back in the day what it was like. Well, we need to get it back, and I believe there's nothing in the way of us getting it back, which is a positive thing. So it's a little bit of a spectrum answer, from positive to not as positive, but that's the reality of where we are.
Very good. And, we have, again, questions, and I'm sorry, I lost my connection during your answer there, Chris, and had to quickly reconnect. So my questions are disappeared from the private chat. If our producer can re-enter those in there and get some other questions. But let's go with Chris, or excuse me, Coach Kumar here. Double K, you were talking about you hadn't had a chance to meet all of the players in person. What really is exciting to you right now? Obviously, we're a little time away from the start of the softball season, but what gets you excited right now about being the head coach at Miami?
It's the young ladies. They have taken every single thing that's come to them with stride. Getting a new coach, meeting the new coach on Zoom, understanding the differences that are going to happen, and I'm ready to work with them. So I'm excited to help what is already such a great program in conference, and not only take it and continue that, but to make it nationally known.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen many schools do that, and we need someone to push that in the MAC. And so that's what I'm excited about, because the potential here is the same as what Coach said.
Very good. While I have you, from Bridget, Coach Kumar, what do you look for in a student athlete? She's 12 years old, plays softball, and was able to watch and meet several of the players during the MAC tournament in Akron. So what would you tell a 12-year-old? What are you looking for from a player?
So there's a few things. One, academics, absolutely, because that's not going to only help you get to school. It's going to help your parents probably in scholarships. And then number two is talent. You have to have talent to be able to play at Miami in softball, and then also character. What are you like when your parents are not around? How do your parents act? And how do you treat others? Because culture is a huge thing, and truly believe that culture is greater than talent. So I would take somebody with better character than someone with better talent that has less character.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much, Kirin. Back to Coach Chris Bergeron. A question from Dennis. And I'll phrase this by Miami's been with the NCHC for a while. Lots of travel in that conference. Any possibility of hooking into a more travel-friendly conference?
I think being here 18 months, Bake, we're always looking for the best possible way to use our budget dollars and so on. I can't speak for the 6 years before, but the partnership with the NCHC, I think, has been positive, but there are some budget realities because of travel. And we're always looking, we're always talking, always looking to what's best for us. Is there a chance that we would, I think there's always a chance, but that's something that there's a lot of moving parts there. That's a big question. That's not something that just happens with a snap of fingers, because I don't think that those travel concerns are just ours. I think COVID has taken the focus away from what challenges we have, but it's also added challenges just because the travel challenges and the budget. Right. That way, but it's brought on a whole new bunch of challenges with no tickets and fans not being around and stuff. So I think those conversations are being had, and I stand by the answer. Is there a chance? Well, there's always a chance, but that's something that there's a lot of moving parts there, and a lot of people would need to be on the same page.
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of moving parts, not only in that situation, but you look ahead to the schedule, Coach, and which nobody knows what it is going to be. I mean, there's so many different models out there. Another question from our audience today, obviously the non-conference part of this is going to be lost somewhere along the way, or at least most of it. Any chance of the October Michigan State series being made up somewhere along the way next year or whenever we do play non-conference?
It'll be made up. It just may not be in the 2021 season. We've got a home and home. We've got a signed contract with Michigan State. It was supposed to be in Oxford this year, and then in East Lansing next year. And I've talked to the head coach of Michigan State. At the very least, we will play at East Lansing next year, and then back in Oxford the year after, which would be hopefully right around October or early November of 2022. Now, I know that's a long way away, and who knows what happens between now and then, but I just, I felt like that was the safest way. They felt like it was the safest way to make sure we got it on the books, and we're going to play Michigan State in Oxford. I know our fans want to see it. I want to see it. It used to be a good rivalry back in the old CCHA days, and they're a bus trip away. So we are going to play it. It just may not be made up until a couple years down the road.
Very good. Coach Double K, question from Dennis. The cancellation of future MAC tournaments, is it harmful to the program and the conference's reputation in general?
I don't think it's harmful. Honestly, the conference regular season means that you are better throughout the whole year and over the course of the season. So I know they're looking into it, but it won't be harmful. So we just have to be at our best every weekend instead of just one weekend. And I don't think right now there's several conferences that don't have a conference tournament, including the Pac-12. The Big 12 didn't have one and just added one. So I don't think anyone's looking at us any differently. And so now it might push us to, as a conference, find out there's a way to get in that large bid without the tournament. So
okay, very, very good. Another question, this one from Brandy, Coach Kumar. In the culture of the program, how important is the alumni base to you, and what will you do to include the alumni?
Great question, Brandy. So the first thing I did was we sent out a newsletter introducing the alumni. The alumni is the reason why we have this program, and they're a huge part. So I know I'm setting up having a Zoom meeting with them here in the next few weeks, and also including having an alumni game and different things that I want them back. And I've talked to a few on the phone, so I'm hoping to continue that. But alumni is what makes this program special. And so I do want to continue that and even make it greater than it was.
Okay, very good. From Dennis, Coach Bergeron, what needs to happen and how to become relevant in the college hockey landscape? Pretty broad-based question there.
First and foremost, from that perspective, from that question, that's 30,000 feet to me. We need to win more.
Yeah.
When you look back at that stretch from 2005 to probably 2012 or 2013, Miami ice hockey may have been in the top 5 in terms of winning percentage. Yes, there was pros. Yes, there was a Hobie Baker. Yes, there was Frozen Fours. There was championships. But that question is based on relevancy, which is based on winning. And people want to come when you're winning. I think there's a process to that because the winning is the result. And I'm a process guy. And that's what takes so long, Bake. That's what makes it so difficult. We're going to have to win at a higher level to become more relevant, period. How are we going to win? Well, that's when you start with the people and the relationships and all that, the process part, that's why we're in this as coaches, to me, the everyday. That's the process. But for us to become relevant, we're going to need to win more.
Mm-hmm. And this is obviously a rebuilding process that you are in, Chris. So what, going into year 2, knowing what you have, what are your expectations going into that second season?
Well,
given whatever it will be, excuse me.
I think that's a broad-based question as well. I think right now where we are as a program, to start talking about a number of wins or standings or things like that, I just don't. I don't think that that's productive for us. Where the expectations for us as a program is the individuals within the program to be the best versions of themselves, so we can be the best version of our group. That's a coach's answer. I get it. We need to defend better. We need to keep pucks out of our net more. That's a specific answer. That's an expectation. We are still trying to figure out if all 28 boys are willing to be part of this program, and the expectations and the standards that come with being part of it. Are they willing to do that? Yeah. We've got 16 kids that all they know is this coaching staff. We've got 12 that were part of some assistant coaching changes and a head coaching change. That's difficult on those human beings. They're good boys, but they know 7th place and they know 8th place in a conference. So the expectations are to continue to build on the culture that we started last year, which is the best version of the individual, so we can be the best version of the group. That, again, there's a process to that. Buying into that process is what I'm talking about, of the willingness to be part of it. Are you willing to listen? Are you willing to communicate? Are you willing to lead? Are you willing to come outside your comfort zone and push harder than you've ever pushed before? Are you willing to ask why? Hey, why do we have to do this? I've got no problem with that. 30 years ago, Bake, if I asked Guaz why, he'd say, because I'm the coach, that's why. 30 years later, if the boy's willing to ask why, we sit him down, we say, this is why. Mm-hmm. And if there's a relationship and trust there, we can get through it. And that's what we expect. That's the expectations going into year 2.
Very good. Thank you, Chris. Coach 2K, question from KT. What are your goals for the softball team and the probable new reality of a season of when it happens?
So the expectations right now, we haven't started practice yet, so we need to kind of see where our team is, but I do expect to build upon what Coach C did. And, in 2019, winning the regular season conference. So the expectations, I know the girls know what it's like, so they know what it feels like. So it's just building upon that and continuing that on. So one of the things that we talk about is competitive excellence, and that's not just in the classroom, but is on the field. So my expectations are for us to continue to get better as the year goes on. So if we can do that, we can continue. I can't wait to get on the field with them so we can start the process.
Very good. Also, talking about that, this is for both of you, and Coach 2K, you can answer this first. From Kenny, My 14-year-old son, taking a break from a virtual school, has a question. He wants to be a coach someday, hockey or baseball for him. How should he prepare at 14 years old, and what should he look for in a college? Coach 2K, why don't you start?
So biggest thing is learn everything you can. So I'm still learning now every day, talking to people, because the more you know, and it gives you better understanding. There's not just one way to win. So to be a coach, it's learning, it's adapting to who you're working with. It's just like for him, the teammates he works with and is playing with, they're not all the same. So how do you interact with them is what you're going to learn for in the coach. I truly believe that there is not just one right school for everybody. You got to see, your academics of what you want to do in school. You have to see is the coaching style is what you're looking for. And then are you looking for a big school, a small school? Are you looking for a specific major? So there's a lot of questions at 14, right? Or is it what he said?
Yeah, 14. Yeah.
Yeah, 14. There's a lot of questions. You got to sit down and see what matters most to you in that. Because my decision, when I made it, decision to come coach here, I had to look at one of the factors, and for me was location. Mm-hmm. And that's why Miami is in a tremendous location.
Yeah. Berge?
Now that pretty much covers it, man. I mean, I don't have a whole lot to add. I agree in terms of asking and talking to as many people as possible. And the reason you're doing that is I think it's important that you start to develop your own thoughts about what's important to you, why you would want to be a coach and stand in front of a room. Because the job of being a coach is we're trying to get the most out of people, right? And that's to get people to maybe become better versions of themselves than they even thought. As far as picking a school, I agree with all those factors. You have to put together what's important to you. Is geography important? Size of school, classroom size. I agree on the major. Those are the things that we seem to be getting are going through with these young people who we recruit, and what's important to them. For me to come here as a coach or to go to Bowling Green as a coach, it gave me an opportunity to be a head coach. When Rico called me 20 years ago, it gave me an opportunity to be a coach. So I was looking for opportunities. Now, when I look back, I think you start to get a little more specific on what you want. And like I say, I think Coach 2K did a good job of summarizing why you would pick this school versus that school. Lots of things to look forward to at 14 for sure.
Oh, I was going to say you got a little bit of time, but that time goes by quickly. So a great question to ask at 14 years old. And as far as school to pick, Miami. That's the answer there every time. Coach Bergeron, Jim has a question. He says we see he got a commitment from a transfer from Providence. Can you tell us a little bit about him when he will be eligible?
He's eligible right away. Caleb Rule is somebody that Barry and I have known for a long time. He visited us where we worked before. He can really skate. I think he's somebody who's trying to find his way in terms of what exactly he is as a player. How he helps us win games. I do think he's a kid that has scored points in the past. His opportunity at Providence didn't seem to be there, and it wasn't going to be there moving forward, and that's why he's able to play right away. So we're looking to see what he does with the opportunity. But some of the things he does well is he skates, and he's always been somebody that's produced points over the course of his career, and he's a boy that was just looking for a fresh start. So we'll see how he does with that opportunity.
Very good. We're just about halfway through our time here. And I, again, want to tell our audience here, if you have a question, just click the Ask a Question button below and submit your question. We'll get to it as we go along here through our webinar that is brought to you today by the fine folks at Kroger, a longtime partner of Miami Athletics, and we certainly appreciate them. Kroger, fresh for everyone. And I'm Steve Baker, voice of the RedHawks, softball head coach Kirin Kumar, a brand new softball coach at Miami University, of course, second-year head coach Chris Bergeron on the webinar today. And Coach Berge, I'll go back to you for this question. again, kind of a broad-based question. It comes from Jarrell. How important is leadership within the hockey program for you? And with being second-year head coach, how do you see it taking the time, or what kind of time do you see it to develop that championship team that you're looking for?
Well, I think it's the utmost importance. The leadership within the program, when they're starting to talk the language and hold each other accountable, that's what we're talking about, and that is going to take time. Our seniors don't know what it looks like. How can we ask them to lead the way to a championship program when they don't know what a championship program looks like? They don't. Where it used to be one group teaching the next group, because it was year after year after year. Miami hockey was going to national tournaments, competing for championships, and so on. I think it is unbelievably important that those 28 people start to hold each other to standards and expectations that of the banners that are in the rink, because that's what this is about. Until it becomes that important within that group, we're going to keep kind of just chipping away, which is fine. We can chip away, but our leadership, that group, they have to find a way to say no more. We're going to stop this momentum and we're going to push forward. That's something I've been through as a player. That's something I've been through as an assistant coach. And hopefully that's something we'll go through here as a head coach here at Miami. This is an awesome place to be anyway. And hockey players have always enjoyed Oxford and enjoyed Miami. But it's so much more enjoyable when you're winning. And again, that's something that I've seen. And we need a group of people to say, I want to be part of that. And I'm not saying winning is the only thing, but it needs to be part of the list of why you want to come to Miami, why you love Miami, is because of the winning. And that's something that it's hard for guys to lead the way in that when they haven't won at the level that I'm talking about. So we're chipping away at it, but it is extremely important that the leadership takes control of this group in the right things, in the right way.
Mm-hmm. Continuing down that track, Chris, another question for you. A third question from Jarrell that I missed there that ties into this. Jarrell wanted to know what your coaching philosophy is to building that championship team. And then Paul said, Chris, love how you hit on coaching styles that have changed from like when George Gwozdecky was here, 30, 40 years ago, and what it is now. What are some of those things that you've really embraced in those changes through the coaches you've worked with and worked for in the past?
To me, it's all about people and developing relationships and trust in amongst those people. You can't get the most out of somebody unless he trusts you, because you're asking him to do things that he may not want to do. And I can tell you, Bacon, this is going to sound ridiculous. We don't ask him to walk across a busy highway and see if he won't get hit by a car. We ask him to come outside his comfort zone. We ask him to push harder than he's ever pushed before. Yeah, well, coach, I'm not very good at English. So does that mean you don't try in English, or do you try harder because you're not very good at it? That's what I'm talking about. You know that Tuesday practice is difficult. So do you come to practice already defeated in your mind, or do you get right in your head and push hard on Tuesdays because it's a hard practice? How do you get that? I think you get that with the right people that are willing to engage in a relationship and a level of trust. And that's why I say, if they don't understand, don't ask your line mate, don't ask your roommate. Come and ask us. Coach, why? Why do we have to do this on Tuesdays? Why do I have to go to class? Why can't I do this? Why? I got no problem with that. I think that's where it's changed the most. The communication between the players and the coaches. What they all seem to want to do is call home. Mm-hmm. We need home to say is, I didn't make that decision, son. I love you no matter what. But why don't you talk to the person that made that decision and figure out why they made that decision? That, to me, is how you build a championship program. You get the right people. Obviously, there has to be a skill level. That's obvious. You get the right people in a situation where there's relationships and trust, and you push them outside their comfort zone. And then you get more out of them than you thought you could get. That is what we did back in the day. I believe that is what they did to win an NCHC playoff championship, and that's what we're going to do now. I believe in my heart it works. The open door policy is a living, breathing thing. It's not just talk. It has to be that, so they understand, so we can get out of the way and let them be the best version of themselves, both on the ice and off. And that's what our coaching philosophy is.
Mm-hmm. Bring in Coach Kumar. Kirin, question. Being brand new to Miami, you mentioned getting to know the players. It's kind of hard these days when you can't really meet them all face to face. And I know you said you hadn't met all of them face to face yet. What are you doing to get to know your players, and where are you in the recruiting process right now, just coming on?
So I'll start with the recruiting process. Right now, there's several recruits that we're talking to and continuing that. But before we kind of see what our own team is and kind of what we need, we're kind of holding back a little bit on there. I do want to see people in person. So the few people that I've seen in person, we're talking to also in terms of getting to know the girls. So I've had individual meetings on Zoom. The few ones that I've met in person, I've done that. We've had team meetings, and we've talked about all different kinds of things. We talked about softball. We talked about Coach Zirkle right now is playing in Athletes Unlimited, and they have a point system, and she's in top 5, so the girls are watching that. But we also play trivia, and so I'm getting to see the kind of their competitive side in a setting outside of softball. So that's kind of, those are a few things. We have different committees we're working on. The girls got to vote to see who was on each committee. So I have conversations with them weekly. So those are kind of seeing how they think, talking to them about anything that they want to. What Coach Berg said, I also have an open door policy, and it isn't just talk. Right now it's Zoom. The girls want to Zoom. They want to FaceTime. I'm available to them at all times.
Very good. You mentioned Coach Zirkle, and Bennett Wise had a chance to talk with Coach Zirkle last week. If you haven't seen that interview, you can check it out on MiamiRedHawks.com. And playing for Athletes Unlimited and raising funds for charity while doing so. Jen asks, tell us the impact that assistant coach Zirkle is having in the professional ranks, and also in recruiting for those future RedHawks, and how that's helping you as well.
Well, she is an incredible ambassador for Miami. She plays the right way. She works hard. You can see it in the way she plays. And one of the greatest things is that she is showing how good she is. She went to Marshall, and she's dominating right now in Athletes Unlimited, top 5 right now in points. Because if you don't know, Athletes Unlimited, you're ranked by your performance. You get points for different things that you do. And so she got MVP, 3rd MVP yesterday in yesterday's game, and is 5th. So I think the future athletes and future recruits are seeing what she can do. And that's what she's going to bring here, our girls, what she does and how she got there. Because she works her tail off. We talked a little bit, and she talked about how when everyone got quarantined, one of the things that she was like, oh, great, I can work out twice a day instead of the regular one. So that just kind of shows you why she is at the level she is.
Yeah, indeed. In this time in recruiting, and obviously it is so difficult right now. 2K, you talked about wanting to see those players in person. This summer had to be the hardest recruiting that either of you have ever been involved in. Chris, why don't you start with that?
Yeah, I mean, there's been nothing. I mean, the summer things that we would typically go to and watch was canceled. All the USA Hockey things, where the festivals of quote unquote the best 15 or the best 16 or best 17-year-old group goes to certain places, those were canceled. I mean, it's unprecedented from a recruiting standpoint as far as I was concerned. We are hoping that some of the leagues that we typically recruit are going to start up, and we can start watching videos and things like that. Zoom calls recruiting is a new world for us, for sure. We've got some people that are committed to Miami University, so that we're still working through that list. That was a list we were handed when we got the job, a year and a half ago. So it's to say that it's different is an understatement. It's the recruiting world. It's been crazy for all of us.
Yeah, Kirin.
So we've been fortunate enough that we can watch them online. Like they put them online, we can watch them. The biggest thing is I think not having camps for several reasons. Is one, you get to interact with them, see this is where you can kind of see their character beyond their talent. You see how they react to getting a little bit of coaching, get to meet them on a personal level, and also get to see the university. So I think that's been the biggest thing. Watching online, it tells us a little bit. If you've already seen them in person, it kind of helps that way. But if you hadn't ever seen them before, there's a lot of things that we can't tell, except that we want to go see them when we're allowed to. So, Chris said it's been an understatement of how different the summer is or was, because the summer was the softball biggest recruiting time. That's when you get to go watch it right after the World Series, but we weren't able to do that at all. So it'll be interesting. We're still watching online, and people are sending us videos, and that's kind of all that we can do right now.
Yeah, it is interesting that you want to get out there and see them, but a big part of the recruiting, and I'll go back to a line that I've heard you say, Chris, and I've heard several of our coaches say, once you get them to Miami, it makes life a lot easier to recruit. And right now, up until recently, you couldn't get an athlete here.
Yeah. And as far as we're under that's not going anywhere, man. I mean, it's
right
to January 1 of 2021, and that makes it difficult. I think we have great facilities at Miami. I don't want to speak for Coach 2K, but the softball field to me looks pretty cool. And you want a young lady to come and see that, just like I'd want a young guy to come see the rink. It's one thing to see it online and virtually tour it and so on. But this place has an allure to it, I think. Campus, the facilities, the town. I think in my experience, you get to this place, you're like, this is home. And you can't do that over the internet. You just can't, or not as well. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree. Coach Kumar, we talked about coming to Miami and taking the job here. We haven't talked about your experience. And question, tell us about your experience coming to Miami from Virginia Tech, and how recruiting changed now that you're working the Mid-American Conference. I think we got the recruiting part of that, but tell everyone about your experience prior to coming to Miami.
So I've been coaching Division I for 16 years. I started at the University of Tulsa and was there for 7 years. I was at Western Kentucky, and we were in Sunbelt at the time, and we won conference, went to regionals and a large bid. And then at Virginia Tech, in our first year that we were there, we won the ACC after the team had a losing season, and gotten that large bid there because we had lost in the tournament. So my passion is softball. It's not something that I knew I was going to continue doing after college, but I got a chance right after college to do this, and I've loved it. I'm not going to change my recruiting philosophy, in the sense that I think we can get the same kids regardless of where we are. And I'm not looking to just win conference. I'm looking to, as our AD David says, is graduate champions, and that's on and off the field. So looking for that, and looking to make a splash nationally. And I know we can do that in the MAC, and that's one reason why I'm here. Our young ladies have had a taste of winning conference, but losing the tournament. And I think that they're hungry and they have something to prove. So I'm going to take all my experiences where I've been and bring it here to show them that they can do it beyond what they've done before.
Very, very good. Coach Bergeron, you and I talked earlier here in the webinar. You answered the question about how coaching has changed, or the things that you've taken in your time here. How has the question from the audience, how has the college game changed maybe in the past 5-10 years, if any? Skills valued more than previously, speed, size, that sort of thing?
Well, I think from what I remember, it seems kids are getting bigger, faster, stronger every year. I think there's always going to be coaches that favor the skill and coaches that favor the size and coaches that kind of favor both. But I think these kids are becoming bigger, faster, and stronger, quicker. And when you get them, they're finely tuned athletes, man. I mean, that's what they are. I remember back in the day, nutrition and getting enough sleep and those kind of things were never even talked about.
Right.
Where now that's important. And so I think it's constantly evolving, constantly changing. The technology is changing. I think they're shooting pucks harder because of the sticks they use, and it's just constantly trying to keep up from their perspective. We're getting people that again, they know what it is to juggle both balls. They know what it is to have to go to class. They know what it is to have to get to the weight room and train and again eat and sleep properly and those kind of things. So I think that has changed. From back in when I remember as a player to today, for sure, it's changed big time. How it's changed in the last 5 years, again, I think people just keep getting better. We want to have a team that's difficult to play against, meaning when we have the puck, we're not going to give it up. When they have the puck, we're going to fight you for it and go get it. And that is going to take a little bit of both. We want to have a good power play, but we want to have some guys that are going to get after you. I think that's a fan-friendly plan, and it's one that I know we can do here. We've done it before.
All right, Coach. Coach 2K, I'll ask you the same question. In your experience over the last, coaching 16 years in Division I, what has changed in the game for softball?
Well, Chris kind of nailed it. They're getting bigger, faster, stronger. One thing I'm going to add is I think they're more knowledgeable before they get to college. So they have the technology now that they're seeing it on TV, and they can watch themselves hit and get feedback or see themselves pitch, watch different opponents. The scouting reports on you has changed, so you have to adapt. And I think that's one of the biggest things is being able to express to them that, yeah, you've been successful, but now everyone watches you. So how can we tweak it a little bit? They want to know why. Coach Chris said it back then when we asked why, it was because we were told. So one thing that I make sure that I do is I have a purpose for everything that we do. And if they don't understand the purpose, I explain it so that they know that there's a reason behind everything that we do. We're not just doing it to do it. And so that's been the biggest change that I see from when I started to now. And it's not a bad change. I think it's something that they want to know that there's purpose to what they're doing. And that's kind of what we do here. And it's collaborative. It's not a strict dictatorship. And that's a little bit different than what we've done. It's a little more like, hey, this is what I want. But there are some things that, hey, the young ladies can have input into.
Okay, very, very good. Coach Bergeron, a question from Nick in our audience today. Who of the returning student athletes has impressed you with their training and development over the summer?
Honestly, Nick, I haven't been around them. We've had no real access to our players, so that's the answer. I mean, I'm not trying to duck it. We literally have not started anything official or unofficial. The unofficial stuff is not allowed to be around. So, right. No, I'm hoping that they're all impressive, but I also am understanding that the last 6 months has been difficult for them. Finding ice, finding weight room availability to train like they typically would in the summer. So, Nick, can you ask me that in about hopefully 8 weeks, and I'll be able to give you the proper answer, because right now I just don't know. I haven't been around them at all.
And Coach Kumar, you're new, so I don't know if you've been able to ask the question to the athletes. So I'll ask Chris. I remember doing an interview with Alec Martinez before the NHL season, and trying to find a place to work out, even in Los Angeles at the time, was almost impossible. So how are the student athletes actually able to keep their skills sharp and get ready for a season coming up?
From a skill level, Bake, I'm not sure they were able to. I mean, you're rollerblading, or are you stick handling in your garage? I mean, seriously, it's very difficult. And I think hockey's one of those sports. You can shoot pucks. You can shoot pucks off your driveway or whatever. Now, so long as mom and dad don't mind a broken window or two, then it's okay. Like it's very difficult to simulate the skill development piece. From a strength perspective, I mean, from a conditioning perspective, you can do sprints and you can run long distance and those kind of things, obviously. From a strength perspective, we asked our strength people to come up with a plan for our guys that maybe didn't include a weight room. Is it push-ups? Is it body weight things they can do at home? We know that gets difficult. We know that gets old. I think it was at least middle to the end of the summer before they actually got access to weight room, at least consistently. So when you're talking about this out loud, then you start to think of their mental well-being. Because they're frustrated. They're struggling. They want to do. They're creatures of habit. I think Division I athletes, just like the coaches, are people that want to have a routine and want to be able to do that routine every day. And when someone takes it away, it makes it difficult. So we're going to be understanding of that, and hopefully we can get to some sort of collective training here real soon.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing. I've been able to talk to Dr. Catherine Tylinski, who is the person in charge of mental health for the athletic department. And that's truly one of the things to overcome, is trying to get an athlete that's so used to a regimen, so used to being able to do these things all at the same time, and then have it cut down to trying to figure all of that out and try and stay in shape and try and do all of that is sometimes very, very tough, but they are very well taken care of here at Miami in that area. And Coach 2K, I'll ask you the same question, because you've seen it, not only from Virginia Tech, but also in talking to your athletes, trying to find creative ways, maybe a little easier with softball because you can go outside and hit into the net or hit into the fence, but still trying to keep skills sharp.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of them, since coming back, have been going to the community park to work on. They got their roommate that's catching for them if they're pitching, but it's not something that you can imitate at all. You can't get ground balls off a bat or see a live pitcher for a hitter. And so the skill part is there. They're able to work on certain things, but the biggest thing is the weight room, right? It's being able to. Softball you don't need to be as in shape as you do for hockey in any sort of form. So the running part's there, but it's not as important as the strength is. So, I know some of the girls were using milk bottles and different things to try to come up with that. So they've been very adaptable, and like you said, with the mental wellness part of it is something that we are very conscious of, and doing something every week for that. So it's different, and it's hard knowing. I don't know where they're coming from, because I've never had a season that's been canceled, but I do understand it, knowing I have had it as a coach. So I'm trying to relate with them that way, and also for them to speak to others that have been that. We started something where they're talking to their favorite players, so they can kind of get an understanding on what they've been through and how they've dealt with this this time also.
Well, we have a virtual room full of Miami alumni and fans, coaches. What can they do? When you really think about it, what can our fans and alumni do to help both of these programs be successful? And Chris, we'll start with you.
Baker, I mean, from an alumni perspective, I want what all the hockey fans, alums are not. I want what they want. I want Miami hockey relevant again. That's going to take some time. So please, first and foremost, be patient. Let us know how we can make you feel more engaged, more involved in our program. And just keep coming and cheering the boys on. I do believe, regardless of the standings, or we all want to win more, but these boys are worthy of your pride, and they're worthy of you cheering on them on. And I think they're trying really hard to get it right. And let's stay together. Let's be patient. Let's make it a collective effort. I mean, that's the message I've given all the alums. We're not asking anything other than 10 minutes of your time, and let us tell you the story of how we're going to do it here. And again, I want the same thing. I'm an alum. Barry's an alum. We all want the same thing, to get this program back to where it belongs.
Very good. Coach 2K?
Number one is supporting our student athletes however you can. And that's if we play down, or if we go to Ohio and you guys are close by, you guys are there to cheer us on, and making sure that you introduce yourselves, so we know that you're there, because we take pride in you guys being involved. I'm going to reiterate is let us know how you want to help and be part of the program, because that's the reason we're here, is because you guys paved the way for them to be here. And so what is it that we can help, and have an open communication. And I want you guys to know what's happening in our program, because you guys have pride in it the same that we do, and we want to continue that. So, but support is number one, and support is being there, watching games, letting them know how well that they're doing, and reaching out to us. So I look forward to the time when I get to meet all of the alumni, and what's kind of why Miami softball is where it's at is because of them. So I can't wait to get to know them more.
Very good. Question for Coach Bergeron from Mark in our audience. You mentioned earlier in our webinar focusing on a better team defense. In your opinion, is that the best way to start chipping away, as you said, to start to rebuild the program and progress toward a team that consists of players that have all been recruited by your staff?
On the ice, I do, babe. I know that going back to the early 2000s, when I first got into this business with Rico, through today, I think the best teams start with defense first, and we need to keep pucks out of our net, whether that's 5-on-5 or our penalty kill wasn't good enough last year. I take full responsibility for that. So I think that's a starting point. I think that's a foundation. Now, by no means does that mean that we're going to sit there and watch another team skate around and kind of pack it in and try to keep pucks out of our net. No, we're just going to start with defense. I think that's something you can coach and teach. And I'm not downplaying the defensive part of it. It's not an easy thing to teach. But if we have a bunch of kids that are willing, I think it's a starting point. Scoring goals and offense is a little more difficult to teach. I think you need to recruit that. So I do think that it's a good foundation for us to really change from what we were last year. Too many pucks went in our net last year, and that to me is where our program is going to make strides once we can do a better job of keeping pucks out of our net.
Very, very good. We appreciate both of you taking time. And I've got a couple of questions for Chris and one more for 2K here. But Chris, I want to ask you, since you will be first up in, aside from football, in the playtime slot, I guess, the virtual playtime slot that exists out there and seems to change every day. NCHC said no, that they would not start any sooner than November 4th. I'm not going to ask you what the schedule looks like, because nobody knows what the schedule looks like. In your mind, what's the best possibility for your guys to get back on the ice and get ready for a season, hopefully, that's going to start in late November?
Well, October 3rd is the first official day for ice hockey to start. Up until that, it's preseason mode. October 3rd, we start into regular season mode. I'm hoping we're able to start October 3rd and have our 20 hours a week and 1 day off a week. And that, to me, would give us 8 full weeks to train both off the ice and on, to get our game right, to get around that November 20th timeframe, right around that Thanksgiving time. As you said, there's no There's nothing as far as the schedule goes right now, though there's too many moving parts there. But what we're focused on is having this team ready as soon as someone says, okay, you can play games. And all the NCHC has said is there'll be no competition prior to November 20. What that means, we still don't know. But what we can control, hopefully, is our preparation, which we're hoping starts this Saturday, which is October 3rd.
Very, very good. Question from Maggie from the audience, and this is for both of you. What is your favorite memory with your respective teams so far? So let's start with Coach 2K. And Coach 2K, since you're new, I'll let you go back, all through your playing time and everything else, because I know I'm going to do the same thing with Chris here. What's your favorite memory in the sport of softball?
Well, if it's me playing, it's man, that's a tough question. I have so many. I'll go ahead and start right now with the current team. Is we played trivia last week, and I think they really enjoyed that. So I'll start with that. But in my playing career, it could be the first time that Georgia Tech, my freshman year, we won the conference, won the regular season for the first time ever, won the tournament, and then went to NCAA regionals, and we were a game away from the World Series. Mm-hmm. That might be a terrible memory, but getting there was great. And as a coach, I would have to say is watching two things: is watching the girls experience what I experienced as a player. So it is watching them win conference and go to the NCAA, seeing their name on the board, and then knowing that when they were freshmen, they wanted to be a lawyer, and now they're lawyers. Yeah. Or knowing that they wanted to be a nurse, and now they're a nurse. They're a hero during this COVID time. And so knowing how they've changed from being a freshman to now that they're adults and in the real world is they have families now. Like that's an amazing thing. And it's not just a memory because it's continuing on now.
Very good. Berge?
It's a tough question.
Well, my favorite memory last year, it's a selfish, our win at Bowling Green was, it was a packed house and we played the game the way we wanted to play. We were a little bit shorthanded. That win for sure was my best memory of last year. As a coach, going to that first Frozen Four, although it was so disheartening how it ended, that whole experience was pretty cool. And then when we won the league, my senior year, when we won the league from where we came from to winning the CCHA, that's my favorite memory.
Very good. Well, Chris Bergeron, Kirin Kumar, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your time with our alumni and fans that want to get to know you. And hopefully things stay the same as far as where we are, get better even as we get closer to the beginning of hockey season and certainly in the spring. And looking forward to seeing both teams on the ice and on the field in the future. So thank you both so very, very much.
Coach Berg, I have a question for you. Can you teach me to skate backwards?
Well, I have to find someone that knows how to skate backwards to teach. I skated forwards. That was just good enough. But thanks for having us. Big thank you for everybody to be involved in the questions. We appreciate it. Go RedHawks.
Absolutely. This webinar brought to you by the friendly folks at Kroger, longtime partner of Miami Athletics, and we appreciate them. Kroger, fresh for everyone. For Chris Bergeron and Kirin Kumar, I'm Steve Baker, the voice of the RedHawks. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Thanks.